1, 2, 3, check. Hey guys, hope you're well. This is Bharath and I'm back with another video on Python. So this video is basically to show you how to write unit tests, and there's many variations. So Python offers you a tool called PiTest, and it has another module called nose. So but I just want to show you how to write simple unit tests. So unit tests are basically tests that check something at a granular level. If you're checking an entire program, let's say you have a big program and you're checking the entire program, which let's say has a dozen functions, and all you're checking is the let's say you pass some inputs to the program and you're checking the output, right? It's a little bit hard to troubleshoot if the program fails. So that's actually what you might call an integration test. So a unit test, as opposed to integration test, is a piece of code that checks something very specific. Okay, so I want to jump into an example and show you like how to write simple unit tests. Okay, so now what I have here is a simple function called multiply, and that function takes args as input. So if you don't know about this kind of parameter passing, what this means is, so when you pass a bunch of values to this function, that gets transformed into a tuple, right? Let's say I'm calling this function like multiply 1, 2, 3. The 1, 2, 3 is basically packed into a tuple, and that's what I am looping through here, right? So I have a multiply function which basically takes all the numbers, multiplies them with each other, and returns the result, right? So I have this function, and then I want to write some test cases for it. So now I'm going to show you how to write unit tests, right, for this function. So let's look at the code, and then I'll explain how to run it. Okay, how to run the unit tests. So first, actually, I'm importing a module called unit test, right? That comes as part of standard Python installation. Then I am importing everything from this multiply module, but we have only one function in this module, so I'm only importing that function. Then I have a class called test multiply, and that class inherits this other class which is coming from this unit test module called test case. And then we have a bunch of functions or methods which are part of this class. You can see test1, test2, test3, test4, and each of these functions are basically calling the multiply function, which is coming from our multiply module, and we are passing some values to it. So then the function is going to get executed, and the result that the function returns is captured into this variable. then we use assert equal, function to check whether the function has returned the correct result. So we have a bunch of ways, a bunch of assert methods which are part of this unit test module. I've shown you like 4 different types here. What this is called assert equal, assert true, assert false, and assert is not none. So there's a bunch of them that you can use, and if you go to Python documentation and unit test module or library, then you can get the list, the entire list. So you can see there's a bunch of them available, and I've used only 4 of these. So the main thing is I have 4 different functions, right? And that is testing this function alone, right? This unit, this little piece of code, right? In other words, it's very specific. It's testing this function alone. And in our example, the function is very simple. It just calculates the result of this, the multiplication of these numbers, and it checks, and we're checking the result. But it could be a different function which is slightly more complex. So in that case, you can pass like different inputs, like input types, and see if the function responds in an appropriate way. Okay, and then down here we have if __ name __ equals main, then I'm calling the unit test.main function. Why do we need this? Because when you run this test separately, like in other words, if I just call Python, if I just call this test alone separately, right? So you can see that it runs all these tests. And how does it know to run the test functions? It knows through, basically we are calling this, and the entry point for this is here, right? Because we're calling this test directly. And then what this does is it basically goes and then figures out, okay, where is this test case class inherited, and like what are my tests, what are the tests, right? And then it runs each test one by one, and then right here it shows it shows whether a test has passed or failed, right? So I know this is not that descriptive, so you can also run it with -v, and that actually shows you which test is actually running, right? So let's say one of these tests fail. Like, in fact, let's go into our test and then intentionally make one of these tests fail, right? For example, let's say that we are expecting this function to return 5,000, right, instead of 6,000, right? And we know that this is going to return 6,000. So 6,000 equals 5,000 is actually false, and then we have assert true over here. So this is false, so the test is going to fail, right? So if you ran the test with just that, you can see that the dots just show you, like, okay, the first test passed, the second test failed, third test passed, and the fourth test passed. And then it gives you a few more details about which line failed. So it says that this is the check that failed. False is not true, right? And if you put a minus v at the end, that's like the adding verbose, and then it clearly shows you test2 function is the one that failed. So yeah, do use minus v. Okay, so there is another slight variation in the way you run these tests. So if you go into this test function, and then you have, like, let's remove this, right? Let's just remove this, and then what you could do is you could run python -m unit test and the name of the test script, right? Again, now here we didn't really, like, we commented out the entry point, right? But it still recognized, you know, the test cases and then ran each test, right? And we know that that was going to fail. And it works the same way, right? It works the same way. Okay, and another variation to this is when you run python -m unit test, it will automatically discover your your test scripts and then the test cases inside it. And the key is actually to prefix your Python files with test underscore, right? Make sure to prefix it with test underscore. Okay, then it will be automatically discovered and executed. And you can also use discover input, and that does the same thing, right? And you can add -v here as well, just, you know, just like this command, right? You saw this command, we added -v and it showed you all the test function details, test case details. And finally, there is something called PiTest, which is another tool that Python offers, and that basically does the same thing, and it's more, you know, it has more details, and some people, or in some places actually, people use this kind of PiTest tool to run the tests, right? So here you can see that, you know, there's color, things are more clear. It says like 1 failed, 3 passed, and then you have a similar output, like, you know, to what we saw before, right? So you can use PyTest as well. So that's basically how you write unit tests, and we saw how to structure your test cases. You basically import the module, import your functions that that you want tested, and create the test cases, use different assert functions, and check how your code works. And of course, there's more to unit tests, but this is basically the fundamentals. And one thing I want you to be cautious about is, you know, here I've got everything in one directory, and of course your project, the projects that you will work on professionally, will be much more complex. The files will be in different places, like your Python, the files that you want tested will be in different places, so you need to import them. You need to make sure that they are part of your Python path, right? And there are parameters that you can pass to let's say PiTest tool to let the tool know where your Python files are, or your test cases are, or in fact both. You can say, okay, this is my source code directory, this is my test code directory. Yeah, so explore PyTest parameters. Right here we ran it with no parameters. Okay, so do explore that. And I guess I will stop here, and hopefully that was useful. Also, question, right? So I've been posting lots of videos on Python, like at least about 20 videos so far, I guess. If you want me to cover a different topic, like I think I can talk a little bit about Git. I can talk about certain DevOps tools like Docker and so on. So regardless of what I know, if you're a DBA or sysadmin and if you're interested in a certain topic, please comment and let me know. And please also subscribe to my channel, and your subscriptions encourage me to do more videos like this. And thank you. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you another video. Please feel free to explore my other videos, and let me know your comments. Thank you.